fear can overwhelm us. We can get fear because of the news headlines or fear because of our past traumas and experiences. And sometimes fear holds us back. It can be debilitating, but it doesn't have to be that way. On today's episode of the Live Faith First podcast, I talked to Naeem Fazal. He's the author of a book called Tomorrow Needs You. And we talk about what it looks like to actually conquer our fears with hope, to actually look and see what growth can have. Did you know there was such a thing as post-traumatic growth? Well, we talk about that today on this episode. So sit down and enjoy this episode of the Live Faith First podcast. Fear can feel like an ever-present force in our lives. Whether fear grows out of the news headlines, the what-if scenarios, or from past traumas, fear can be debilitating. But we don't have to live under a cloud of fear. There is another way. Naeem Fazal is here today to help us on our journey from fear to freedom. Naeem, are you ready for this?
Wow, that's quite the intro. Yes, I better be ready for this.
Right.
Yes.
Let's try this. Let's see if we can figure it out. Well, welcome to the podcast. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, bro. Thank you so much.
I'm excited for the conversation. I enjoyed reading through your book, and so I can't wait to hear some of your stories.
Yeah,
and just to hear how God has, used you over the years. So
so the book changed your life. Is that what I just heard? The book has changed your life forever. That's what I heard.
Forever. Absolutely. No, honestly, as I was reflecting on it this morning and the last couple of days, and I'm like, there were some tragic stories in your book, and yet it was a hopeful book. And that was so usually it's either like all tragedy and you kind of go away like, oh dude, I'm like, wow, that's rough. But you were able to take some really difficult things and bring God into them. So those are the things I hope we can discuss today. So,
sure.
And I'm excited to hear about your story of how you met Jesus after growing up being a follower of Allah and how Jesus met you. And so I'm excited, but we're going to wait on that. We're going to have that a little bit later. But before we get there, would you give us the cliff notes of your life? Tell us, where were you born? Where were you raised? How'd you get where you are today?
So I'm originally Pakistani. But I was born and raised in the Middle East in a country called Kuwait. My parents migrated there as Pakistanis, and we were born and raised there. And I came to the States after the Gulf War. There was a Gulf War in 1990 that, we were there throughout the liberation of it, occupation, liberation the whole time for about 2 years. And then, I got a chance to come to the States. And my brother was actually previously, he had earlier come to the States and he was in college. So he was stuck here in the U.S. while we were stuck in the war. And then I came to join him, and this was in Charleston, South Carolina. And then, I got there. He was at the College of Charleston. And, I went to, he started talking to me about Jesus. He'd already told me about Jesus before, but I threatened to kill him. It was the bad scene. And, but then radically, I came to faith in 3 weeks, and then changed the course of my life. Then knew I was supposed to be in ministry. So a lot of stories in my first book. I actually wrote a first book called Ex-Muslim, and all stories of my family, my siblings coming to faith and all that. And and now fast forward, I'm the pastor of Mosaic Church in Charlotte, North Carolina. We moved to start Mosaic, and 2 kids and 2 cats, unfortunately, that I'm giving away at every podcast. So if your listeners would like a cat, that's 2, Harry Potter and Thanos. I'm just saying, with names like that, you should have them.
They might be. I love that. That's funny. That's funny that you chose those properties, those Marvel properties. I love that. We're thinking about getting a gecko. We have a dog. We're a dog, and then we have a turtle.
Okay.
We're thinking about getting a gecko, but we were thinking of going for more of a Lord of the Rings kind of name.
Oh, Lord of the Rings. Okay.
So, but
Smeagol?
My wife and daughter just cannot stand the Smeagol. That character alone freaks them out. It took a while for them to actually get into Lord of the Rings only because of Smeagol. They're like, I can't. So no, we were thinking of Radagast. Do you remember the old wizard with all the birds in his cap, right? The bird poop kind of hanging down. So we're thinking
Yes.
Radagast. I don't know. We'll see.
That's a
We'll
cool
see.
name. It's a cool name for
Well,
sure.
and often when you got to get your animal, and then the animal tells you, like, oh, this is my name, right? Like, oh, okay,
Really?
this is
Is that
this
a
is a.
thing?
So
You got, I mean, listen, I'm still learning the Americans, you know what I'm saying? I'm still figuring you guys out. And
so
so,
we went to. I like to call it the pound, the dog pound, but it's the
hmm
rescue. I think is what the official name these days, or the shelter, the animal shelter. That's where we went. And my daughter had really wanted a second dog, and so we go in, and there was this small little dog with this massive like underbite, like chin just jutting out. Like I don't know how the dog ate. Like the teeth didn't seem to meet. And we wanted the dog, and we decided that that dog looked like Edgar. Like that was going to be that dog's
okay,
name. That was
okay,
the character. Unfortunately, we went back the next day, and the dog was already gone. So we never ended up with Edgar. But that
okay,
we
okay.
named it. We named
Yeah.
Edgar
Okay.
Edgar. So
Oh,
anyway,
well,
so there we go.
that's
So
hilarious.
your latest book is about fear. Now, this might be my worst question I've ever asked on a podcast, but because I think we all get it. But what is fear? Would you kind of describe that, or maybe what forms does fear take? Like, just kind of give us kind of some handholds around fear, even though I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
probably most of us get it.
Yeah, yeah. So great question because I think fear is one of those things that cannot is unique as you are. And so when people say, "Oh, this is what fear is," I don't know about that. I know what fear looks like to me, and it shows itself in different ways. And so there are times where I am super anxious, or I'm stressed out, or I'm worried about certain things, or I'm thinking and rehearsing some certain things, and that could be linked to the fear that I have. Like, what am I really afraid of? Like, what am I fearing? Or if it's not internal, it's external. Like, I am controlling. I'm snapping at people. I am frustrated. I I uh, I act out in rage, or I just lose it. For example, in traffic, people lose it in traffic. Why? Because they're not in control. Why they're not? They feel a sense of insecurity because they're like, I don't know what this car is going to do, and you act out. So what is that? When you go down to you follow that, you go, well, that's really fear. I'm afraid I'm going to get in a wreck. I'm afraid of people that I love in the car. Like so. So to us, I think fear is not as simple as we think. Oh, just don't be afraid. No, it's a lot of things. It's a lot of things. And Jesus linked, in some cases, he linked, fear to control with the Pharisees, and then he linked worry, fear to worry with some of the people that he interacted with on the streets. So yeah, it's complicated.
Yeah, yeah, and I love the way you describe that as it's individual to us. I mean, there's some crossover between everybody when it comes to fear, but we all
Sure.
kind of have our things that get us, like you say, whether it's anxiety or security, fear of being out of control, and some of those types of things. But there is kind of a root underneath it, and I think when we can dig down and kind of figure out like what's underneath my response right now. Say you're
Yeah.
driving and
Yeah.
you're angry, like what's under that is causing me to have this emotional response, and
Yeah. Yeah.
as we
And I
identify it. Yeah, go
Yeah,
ahead.
and I don't want to like categorize, people, but like a lot of guys feel they get angry because anger is the emotion to express when you're really afraid, and they just do that. And but some guys they'll hide away. Some people just maintain status quo. They don't want to rock the boat. Why? Because they're afraid. So yeah, it shows up in so many different ways. But I like in my book, what I want to do, what I was attempting to do, is to allow people to be comfortable with fear. Because in the faith circle, especially if you grew up in a faith, or grew up Christian, or grew up religious, even. Um, their understanding of fear is very flat, and the solution to it also is very flat. And at some point, you end up living a life, being spiritual, having a relationship with Jesus, even, and then still living in fear, or not living in fear, but allowing fear to shape you, which that's the biggest issue. So.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. What are some of the fears that you've struggled with?
Oh
What are
man,
some of your
I mean,
key ones that keep bumping up?
yeah, well, if you read the book, part of it. I mean, there's so many fears, and with me, but and initially, I think it started off with. I don't even know if I mentioned this in the book. This is extra material here.
Nice.
Is back in the day, I watched the first Planet of the Apes. You guys remember Planet of the Apes movies? Okay,
Yes.
I watched that and it freaked me out, man.
Yes.
I was like, it just bothered me. I mean, and my mom and dad were gracious, and I slept with them, and I just freaked me out. So I feel like if there was a moment where I was like, "This is what fear looks like," that's it. And then I started watching here and there, like the Twilight Zone. I mean, again, I'm aging myself, but dude, some of those things, I'm like, "Oh, this is
Yes.
anything is possible."
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. But I mean, those were like, this idea of like being scared. But fear for me has always, I mean, I've had a unique relationship with fear because, so growing up, I was really bad in school. So as in academics, it was so hard for me that, I mean, elementary, I mean, I must have cheated my way through elementary, then went to, like I guess upper elementary, and then and in fifth grade I couldn't figure it out, and I failed it. Then repeated fifth grade, failed it again, and I couldn't repeat it a second time because the school was like, okay, we can't help you. So I had to leave the school, and then go to another school, and then took the test again to go into the sixth grade, failed it, the placement test, and so I will tell you, looking back, I mean, I had a chronic stomach issues. I had chronic stomach issues growing up or as a kid, and they thought it was ringworm. They thought it was all kinds of things. They thought it was a lactose intolerance. They thought all this, and you know what it was, honestly, man? It was fear. It was fear and anxiety of like I cannot read. And now, all these years later, come to find out, I'm dyslexic. I've got dysgraphia. Uh, I have dyscalculia, which means I switch things around all the time. So yeah, fear, being afraid of not being able to um, come across intelligent was huge. Um, I mean, I went through a war in high school. I'm so glad I did in this crazy way because I was like, there was no way I was graduating high school. So I was like, so the only thing I graduated is college, which is the grace of God. Um, but yeah, man. So fear in my life has played. It's been a constant companion in my life, in different ways. And then being a church planter, and then being at Mosaic is 19 years old, and so we've gone through all kinds of up and down, and the pandemic, and I mean, yeah, man, a lot.
Wow. Now, you lived in a war zone, and I didn't hear
Mhm.
you say anything about fear during war. Were you in like a safe place, or was it
No,
distant
no,
from you?
no.
Or I'm just
So
curious.
yeah, no, no, no. Good question, Elliot. No, that's in the other book. So my first book, ex-Muslim, chronicles that. So it's me coming to the U.S. It's the backstory of my life. It's a lot of personal stories. So the war stories are in there. Yeah, this one was really, Tomorrow Needs You was really a message that I wanted to get out in terms of like relating to a lot of people. The first book was like letting people know who I am, but yeah, but no, no, we were not in a safe place at all. No, not at all. Being held at gunpoint is a thinking you're going to get executed is a whole next level of fear. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I can't imagine the closest I ever came to that, and I guess it technically was a gun to my chest, but I lived in Jerusalem for a semester, did a
Mm,
semester abroad in Jerusalem, and
yeah.
one day there was a bomb that went off in the meat market, and so me and my friends decided it'd be fun to go down to where the bomb went off and just watch the melee between Israel, army and
Yeah.
the Palestinians. And so we watched that for a couple of hours. And so we
Oh my
started
gosh.
walking down this little path towards where the meat market was as they opened things up. And this Israeli soldier I think it was probably a tear gas gun because it seemed like it was
Oh,
about this big, but he just pointed it in our chest and was like, "Go." I don't know if that was the only word in English he knew.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
the
yeah.
only word he used, and we decided it was a good time to go. We're like, "Yes, this seems appropriate. Yeah, let's get out of here now." So,
Oh, wow. Yeah.
yeah, has to be terrifying. Has to be absolutely terrifying. Um, I want to switch over a little bit to Jeremiah 29:11. You did a great job of walking
Mm.
through that in your book. And we love 29:11, right? It's that plans to prosper you, plans for a future. I don't know. I think every Bible bookstore and every Christian like has like that plaque somewhere in their house, right? It's like
Yes,
that's
yeah.
the one we want to hold on to. But you draw out that right before that, God was saying, settle in. Like
Yeah,
you're going to
yeah.
be here for a while. What's it like when we're lingering in a difficult season? Like, how do we navigate through that with that
Yeah.
hopefulness, but yet like God's planted me here right now?
Yeah, yeah, no, that's a great question. Yeah, so in the book, what I talk about is this idea of like it's in three sections. So it's like the first section is yesterday has forgotten you, and then today is waiting because tomorrow needs you. And the issue really is that sometimes some things have happened in our past that we just don't reconcile, we just don't get over. And there was a past, and for the Jewish people during that time before the exile was a good enough time for them. I mean, when they entered into this exile with to Babylon, it was the darkest time. But before that, they had established that they had something going on. And when you lose something like that, there is a major trauma that happens to you. You know, the title of my book, Tomorrow Needs You, came out of my dad. My dad lost a lot of things in the war. Came to the States, tried to make it work here, but he was not as fluent in English, and really lost his confidence, lost a lot of things, and got into a really dark place, and wanted to take his life. I mean, he tried to. And the conversation, the title of the book, Tomorrow Needs You, came out of a conversation with him where he was like, no one needs me. And I was like, man, there's so many people who believe that. And part of that is because of all the past that he had not reconciled, like, and he was unable to see the beautiful things around him. Like he was like, he wanted to go back. There was nothing to go back to. So I think with when God speaks to them and tells them about this hope and plans and all that, earlier on, he tells Jeremiah, go tell the people what I really need to do. Because what happens is that our past wants to draw us back, and in Jeremiah, if you read the chapter, there are prophets over there that said, hey, the past is waiting on you. God's going to restore us really quick, really good. It's going to happen. So just hold on to that past, hold on. And that's the human nature in all of us. Like if something has happened, good or bad, we want to go back. If it's not reconciled, we rehearse it, we repeat it. It just happens. And we go back to Facebook and try to figure out, I wonder what they're doing. And you live their lives, because you haven't settled it. And so when God says, before he says, I got a plan for you, he says, I got plans for you. He says, I got work for you to do. And here's the work I need you to do. I want you to know, first of all, reconcile the past, settle in. You're going to be here in this season for a while. And we do not want to face that, right? We do not want to. But you know this. I mean, someone goes through a major divorce, pretending that it's going to come around, or pretending it's going to, there's no, like, you got to mourn that. Like, I mean, it takes shock. I mean, shock is a thing. A denial is a real thing when it comes to a tragedy. When you lose someone, when you lose a business, you're like, is it really happening? Did it really happen? But you got to do the work on that. And so, so in my book, I talk about, Jeremiah, he starts saying, hey, here's what I want you to do. This is what God says. I want you to start building homes. I want you to start planting gardens. I want you to start falling in love and marrying. I want you to find spouses. I want you to have grandkids. I want you to start praying for and working towards what's happening, working and building what's happening all around you. Work and pray for the welfare of this place, and because it'll determine your welfare. And if you do all these things, don't believe all the other things. You're going to be here and he tells them 72 years or something. He says, and then I'll tell you, I'll come and rescue you. I'll restore everything. I'll redeem everything. But 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 know that if you do all these things, I need you to know that my plan is to give you a hope and future. Like, my plans are not, so this will work if you just do this. And for some of us, we don't want to do all that. We just want God to rescue instead of us really working, doing the work.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. And because we do have to reconcile with our past, which is affecting our present, right?
yeah,
But we can't live in the past. And so that, I think that's one of the tensions, is how do we reconcile our past? Kind of, I'm going to say get over it, but I don't mean it in some sort of like, yeah, snap out of it. It's the
yeah.
process of like working through, coming to terms with, maybe that's a better way to say it, so that we can get our eyes on the future. Do you have some things that help you in like keeping your eyes on a hopeful future, kind of when you're in the
Yeah.
midst of that? What are some things to kind of help us, work through the past, but at the same
Right.
time, hopeful for a future?
Yeah, yeah. So I think, yeah. So in the book, what the big idea I'm really proposing here is this idea of like, okay, so, you know, when we end up rehearsing the past, when we are focused on the past, the immediate response to our current lives, like the present and the future, is number one, we just maintain the future. I'm sorry, the present. We're just like, let's just let's just keep going. You go on auto cruise, and then we're really, really unsure about the future. So we maintain the present. We're unsure about the future, and that why? Because you don't have time to dream, because you are rehearsing the past. You don't have time to create. You don't have time to think about the future. And here's the problem: hope, like I mentioned in the book, hope exists in the future. Hope does not exist in the past. There is no hope in the past. It was what it was, but hope calls you in the future. So if you spend your days thinking about the past, you're just going to just keep things afloat in the present, and you're not really going to think about the future. And the only time you're going to think about the future is when you read the news and you go, I don't want, I can't, it's too much. I can't handle it. So you're afraid of it. And so that's why in the book, I was like, what we have to do is we've got to figure out, like, okay, so what do I need to do? Like, like if I find myself now going, I really am afraid of the future. I really don't know what's uncertain. I really don't know. How do you dismantle that kind of fear? And I propose that you do it with beauty. Like that the beauty is a solution to fear. And I'm linking beauty to love, because you cannot separate beauty and love. You cannot, because if you consider something beautiful, you are attracted or have an affection for it. It might not be beautiful to me because I don't have a connection to it, but it's beautiful to you. Your family is beautiful to you. To me, I don't know them. So that's why you cannot separate beauty and love, and God does not separate beauty and love. And that's why he says perfect love casts out all fear. So love is the only thing that controls the fear in our life. It has the power to control fear in our life. And so that's why I propose, hey, let's look to Jesus. So in Hebrews 12, Paul says, hey, here's what you need to do. You need to look to Jesus. He's the perfecter. He's the author and the perfecter of our faith, meaning he started it. He's going to end it. He's the way to look at, like, you want to grow in your faith. You want to live a life that's beyond yourself. Do what he does. And so then he says this, he says, let's look to him. And then he says, this is how he did it. He says, for the joy set before him, he endured the cross. And so right there, man, that changed me, Elliot. I was thinking, hold up. That's how he did it. He says, there's a joy that I set before you, that he endured the cross. So Jesus saw a beautiful humanity, saw a beautiful version of a relationship that humans could have with God. And he said, it's worth dying for. It's worth conquering my fear. So it's really the beautiful things in our life that we love, that we're drawn to by love, that dismantles fear in our life. We are willing to do whatever, give more of ourselves when we love something. And that's why Jesus was like, God God loved the world so much that he gave his only son. Like, so I think there's this dynamic. You go, we've got to find not faith that's in us. No, we have to find something. We have to put something beautiful, a joy before us to dismantle the fear in our lives. I mean, if you have your family and they are in trouble, you believe they're beautiful, you're going to do whatever. You don't have time to worry about a burning building. You don't have time to think of what if scenarios. You just go for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's good. There's a lot there. So everybody maybe go back
Sorry,
and listen to
yeah.
that one more time. No, it's amazing. I'm just, pondering in my head, what do I respond to? Because there's about 8 things there. This is so good.
Sorry, man.
No,
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. One of the things that just really, my brain's trying to wrap around this is Paul writes, right? Because of the joy set before him, he endured the cross. And yet when you go and you read the Gospels, the moment of, really the Last Supper through his crucifixion, that's not a joyful 2-3 days, right? 2 days, 1 day, right? That was not a joy. In fact, Jesus was trying to get out of it, or at least, come on, Dad, come on, can I get out of this? And then when he's, of course, on the cross itself, he's like, why are you forsaking me? And yet Jesus had to go through that impossibly difficult time being separated from the Father. He had to go through that in order to have joy on the other side. There wasn't an easy way through, right? There wasn't an easier, like, well, let me just take the bypass, right? Let me just, go get beaten a little bit, and then, that'll be enough. It took the full separation and, the trust of the Trinity to restore, Jesus back to life. Which leads me to my next question here, where you talk about this, and I had never heard this. Post-traumatic growth. I didn't know PTG. I've heard PTSD, of course, post-traumatic stress disorder, but post-traumatic growth is a thing. Would you tell us a little bit about PTG, what that is, and like what we look for on the other side of that?
Yeah, sadly, a lot of people don't talk about that. When you talk about when you interview people like I did in this book, and a lot of the stories, if not all the stories in this book, because I think almost every chapter tells a story of someone coming out of trauma of some kind, and some of the stories are like, oh my gosh, like they're intense. They're intense. I mean, abuse and just a lot. But all of the stories are about people who have grown out of. They've grown because of their trauma, or out of that, or in spite of the trauma. So the big idea there is that you can either have a traumatic experience, or it can be triggering, or people can get actually stronger. It's like even your body, when if a bone breaks and if you repair it properly, it gets stronger. That part gets stronger next time around. It gets thicker. So your soul does as well. Your mind does as well. But you got to do the work. You've got to. There's a process of healing that that people have to be on. So not every traumatic thing has to trigger you and lead you broken. It doesn't. It can. And that's the secret to it. And I talk about it in the book a little bit. Is this the secret is the idea of like broken people creating something beautiful. Like we are the broken becoming beautiful because of God. And he's doing that. He's creating a beautiful mosaic. That's why the church is called Mosaic, because it's different people, broken pieces coming together to make something beautiful. And when God does that, so he is the God of healing and restoration. He's the God of redeeming everything. So God wants to redeem our trauma. And so, yes, stories of post-traumatic growth is people, again, I believe, like the stories that they put something, a vision, they put a dream, they put a relationship, they put a community around them or before them. And man, that makes them grow out of, their pain. Because sometimes what happens is that pain, fear, loss, all that, like in one sense, I was thinking about the other day, I should have wrote this in the book, but sometimes what happens is that all those things like trauma ends up taking control of our lives, where we begin to a play a character in a story that we didn't write. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're playing a character in a story we didn't write. Like, life wrote for us, or people wrote for us, and 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 so, like, the only way to do it is that you've got to take back that power to write your own story. So post-traumatic growth are people who go, I'm not going to let my trauma write a character, make me a role that I need to play. I'm taking it back. And it's hard work. But yes, man, there's stories of that all over.
Yeah. And if we live in this kind of, I'll call it deterministic, but like, somehow our path has been set ahead of us and we're just like, or maybe it's fatalistic. Like, this is just my fate. This is just what I have to go through. And, obviously some of the more Eastern religions live that way, right? Where there's that idea that, like, well, this is my lot in life. And so let me go through it. And then obviously if you have reincarnation, then you get another go at it at some point, hopefully. But that idea that we don't have to live out the story that our parents lived out. We don't have to live out the story that we think it is ours. We can go back. And I think it's one of the things that frustrates me as I watch people who feel stuck. And you're like, my goodness, if you could, see what you have. I feel like I see something in you, but you're kind of bogged down. And I think and I'm hopefully going to bring a few of these things together, but that's why we have to go to our past and look at it, stare at it, address it, and heal from it. And when we find healing there, and then that no longer controls who we are, or at least we can start to now make, like, okay, that doesn't have to be my future path. I can do something different.
Yeah. One of the ladies in the book, we tell her story, and Danielle, and you guys can read it hopefully. But yeah, because of the horrific things that have happened to her in her life, she had to carry a brick. I don't know if I mentioned this in the book or not, but she carried a brick. Therapist told her to write all the things on that brick, all the pain, all the stuff on that brick, and she carried it for a week. Everywhere, she had to do everything with it, and it was crazy. I remember hanging out with her, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, she's there. She's carrying a brick. She's doing, she's just holding a brick, and for a week she had to do that, and then finally toss it." And it was like this weight of, like, all the things in my life that I've been carrying, all the stuff. Because here's why you don't hear of post-traumatic growth. Because it's hard. Like, people talk about, I got hurt and I got better. They don't talk about therapy. They don't talk about physical therapy. No one likes physical therapy. You know why? Because it's painful. It's painful. You bring back that pain again. So that's why most people go, you know what? I won't use that muscle anymore. I'll do a bypass. And there are people physically will do that. They'll do a bypass. They'll cope around it. They're like, well, I just won't do that activity. But the pain of resetting it, the pain of making that stronger, I don't want to do it. And so it's the courageous, man. It's the people who go, I'm going to do this. And that's why I talk about it in the book. I'm like, you have to put something before you that's so beautiful, that's worth going back, resetting the bone, resetting the thing, going through therapy. You have to go. It's like a parent, maybe they says, I am going to learn to walk again because I want to run with my kids. I'm not going to settle for whatever. I'm going to get better again. I'm going to get my heart better again. I'm going to go to therapy because I cannot create a dysfunctional, stressed, toxic environment emotionally for my kids. I'm going to do this. I'm going to get a healing. I'm going to get healed. I'm going to beat this addiction. I got to do this because I cannot create a unstable, painful experience for my kids. It's all, and that's tough.
And
Yeah, it's worth it.
I want everybody out there to hear this too. It doesn't matter how young or old, how many years of life you have behind you or ahead of you. It's always going to be difficult, but it's always worth it. I
Yeah.
just hear that if you've never gone to counseling or you've never stepped into some of your old past and in order to heal, to move forward, it's just go, trust us. This is,
Yeah.
there can be some negativity around, going to see a shrink and all of that. And it's like, just don't worry about that really. And, it is tough. It is hard. And here's the verse that I love. This is the one that helps me through those days, is that I call it the Hebrews 12 wisdom, but where God says, or the writer says, that the Father disciplines those, his son, the son that he loves, his children that he loves, and that it's not enjoyable. I love that the writer says that. It's not fun in the moment. In the moment, you shouldn't be praising God because I'm going through a tough time.
Right.
It says, but those who are trained by the discipline, there will be a harvest of peace and righteousness.
Yeah.
And I love that there's a promise at the end. And there's just that reality of, you know what, there's going to be tough times. And actually know that that means you're a child of God. If God cares about you enough to put you through that, and then you learn from it, there will be that peace and righteousness that really we all hope for. And we can fill in the blank with hope and love and all those other things. But, the two words that the writer chose was peace and righteousness. And honestly, if we had those two things in our life, peace and righteousness, like a lot of other things flow out of that. Right?
Oh yeah, for sure.
So,
for sure. Yeah, no, I'm glad you shared that, because that made me think about, what would be a verse that, kind of helps me or understands that whole idea of like why it's worth it. But yeah, it's probably Paul, when he talks about like, I've prayed to God about this, for him, it was a weakness. We don't know exactly what that was, but we know that it caused him all kinds of angst. He was like, I just want to get this. I just want this to be done with. I just want this. And we all have those things. And then, God says, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power and is made perfect in weakness. And I tell you what, when I read that, I go, Paul is saying something. He's saying, listen, when I was talking to God the other day, and he said something to me, and he said that your weakness makes room for me. Like, but what? Yeah. So when you pretend not to be weak, when you have no weakness, there is no room for me.
There's no need for
And
God.
then there's no need. So our brokenness, the cracks, is where God shows up. So, and then he says, and it's in the space of my weakness that God's power is perfected. Like it is amazing when you have that gap. So, and then that's why Paul's like, so when I was talking to God about this and he told me this, you know what I do now? I kind of boast about my weakness. I kind of boast about the fact that I got to go to therapy. I kind of boast about the fact that I do this thing. I'm going to start boasting about this. I know it's crazy. I know I'm supposed to have it all together. I know I'm like the Pope of the movement and all that. I know this, but I'm just going to go ahead and boast about my weaknesses, because I know that when I'm weak, I'm strong. So, right? So I think if we get comfortable there and go, I'm just going to tell them, I'm just going to, man, I can't. I have this disability. I have this issue. I have this. And God's power and grace is drawn to spaces like that. So,
oh man, that is so good. That is so good. And somehow as pastors, we have this fallacy that we have to be perfect, like our behavior has to be perfect, and that our attitudes and our habits, all of it has to be perfect. And the truth is we're followers of Jesus on journey, the same, and we struggle.
Sure.
And we probably maybe get up and pray more than the next person, but maybe not, right? Like,
right.
So, and for a pastor to get up and say, nah, this is my areas of weakness, it almost feels like, can I say that? Am I actually allowed to have a weakness? Because I'm up here preaching every Sunday like I got it all together. And but I love that idea that is the place where we actually give God a space to show up.
Right.
Because I don't have it together.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's why, I mean, he gives grace again, that word to the humble, but then he resists the proud. So because he's like, there's no room for me in your ego. Like if your ego is so big, I can't get in there.
Right, right, right. And it's in our society, one of the things where we are so strong is in self-sufficiency. I mean, that's not 100% every person living in the US, but there's a lot of self-sufficiency. If you have a job and you have a house, like, well, I always joke by saying I have faith in my refrigerator, because every time I go to a refrigerator, there's food in it, right?
Yeah,
It
yeah,
may not
yeah.
be the food I want to eat, but there's plenty of nutrition in there, right? And that's not a place where God can show up in my life, because I have a
Yeah.
refrigerator that gets restocked by the Costco and the grocery store. And so that's not an area where I can lean into God's provision, because
Right.
I've got that together. Now I understand the larger theology of God being the provider of everything. So don't hear what I'm not saying, but
Yeah, yeah.
it's in those places where I think it's tough to reach our nation to some degree because of our self-sufficiency. I mean, we all know we have spiritual needs, but do we really have need of God? Because I got a car, I got a house.
Yeah.
If I have an
Yeah.
emotional issue, I'll go see a therapist. Like, and where is that space that says I need something more than I can provide?
Yeah.
And then when we find those spaces, we just fill it up with alcohol or drugs or
Right.
pleasure or
Right.
some other distraction to
Yeah.
fill that gap, and never actually stop and go, wait a second, I think there's probably something bigger than anything on this earth that I need to fill that
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
hole.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, coming from, from Kuwait, it's a first world country, but living there as an immigrant, being from Pakistan, which is a third world country, and then coming here and then still being an immigrant. I mean, even though I'm a U.S. citizen now, I've always been a stranger in a strange land. You know what I'm saying? Where I understand that certain countries have a certain kind of, I don't know, spirit about them. And the U.S., and even the Christian movement in the U.S., like Christianity in the U.S., is really finds its joy and prosperity. Like it says a lot about, like, I don't know, maybe it's hyper focused on prosperity and favor of God and being blessed and all that, because we're the most blessed country apparently, or we love the idea of prosperity. And I'm not saying that God doesn't want to prosper us, but what I do think though is that when you go after and seek after, as a culture, as a society, as business leaders, as any kind of leaders, political leaders, whatever, if we go after prosperity, prosperity promises something that only God can provide. And that's why when you go after prosperity, you get the wealth, you get the privilege, you get influence, but you don't get peace. You don't get peace at all. You don't get, you forfeit that. You don't get pleasure even. You get momentary, but you don't get satisfaction. You do not get significance. You get success. You don't get the things your soul really desires and wants and needs to live. You get all the other stuff. You get the flattery, you get the fame, you get all these things, because you're just pursuing something that your soul was like, God provides that. It's not you. It's not your world. It's not your refrigerator. It's not, your refrigerator being full, to your point, is not going to grow your faith in, like, hey, God provides for me. No, it doesn't do that. No, it's got to be other arenas. And so you have to go back and go, okay, what am I really pursuing here? What am I going for? If that makes sense.
Yeah. No, it absolutely does. It absolutely does. And probably why Jesus says it's really hard for a wealthy person to get into heaven, right?
Yeah, it's not nothing wrong with wealthy people. It's just wealth kind of does that. I mean, it's a great it's a great companion. It's a terrible master. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. 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 Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, would you tell us the story of finding Jesus after growing up Muslim? We'd love to hear.
Yeah.
We'd love to hear that story here today.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Like I mentioned, it's in my first book, but And it's a story not just of me coming to faith, but also my siblings. So what happened is, like, my brother, like I mentioned before, he had come to faith and came back and told me and my brothers and sisters. I have two brothers, two sisters. Um, and yeah, and I threatened to kill him. It was a really bad scene. And then went back to the U.S. We were stuck in a war. In 1992, I came here. And then he invited me to FCA, Fellowship of Christian Athletes, and I was not interested, but he was like, "Hey, there's some cute girls there," I'm like, I'm just like, I was like, "Okay, man, I'll show up." So I'm showing.
You're not the first person who has gone to any of those meetings, right? Because of that motivation.
Yeah, right. So I show up. I show up, and a Muslim guy, kid, and not even in college, just trying to figure out visa and how to get to college. But yeah, I hear about the gospel. I hear about this story, and then interact with a lot of his friends who are all believers. And yeah, my brother was just convinced. He kept on telling me, he's like, "Man, listen, God is personal. He's pursuing you. And if you would ask Jesus to reveal himself, he'll do it. He'll show you himself." I'm like, "Really? Like, you're serious?" And so I'd make fun of him, talk about, Jesus coming and burning the bush like Moses, and just goofy things like that. And yeah, so I mean, he was just so confident about it. So one night I did it. I just said, "Hey, if this is even half true, I want to know." And didn't think anything of it. It wasn't like a prayer or anything like that. And yeah, the next 3 days later, something just beyond natural happened. I was in my room trying to fall asleep. I was about to shut off the lamplight, and I noticed that the room was getting really crazy, weird. Like, I felt like my body was reacting to something I couldn't really see. And as I was looking around, something grabbed me and dragged me and pinned me to my pillow, and something sat on me, and I couldn't move except my neck. And I mean, I was not asleep. I was just like looking around going, "What is happening?" So I started yelling out, and I couldn't hear myself say anything. So I'm like freaking out at this point. And then finally the door opens up, and I think my brother heard me, but in walks this thing. And like, it's a big old demon. Like, we're not. I mean, I don't even know how I know it's a demon, but it's this huge figure. I mean, I realized later on, reading the scriptures and all that about demonic stuff. But yeah, so it comes towards me and it communicates. It's like, "I'm going to kill you. You're going to die." And I mean, I believe him. I'm like, I'm freaking out at this point. I'm just totally losing it. I'm thinking, this is not happening. This is not happening. Wake up. And it reaches me, and I don't know why. I was praying to every God out there, and apologizing for what I did, said about Jesus, and then, yeah, it reaches me, and then it just disappears. And then whatever was holding me lets go. And I'm just find myself just stunned. And so I run out of the room, wake up my brother, and I'm like, "This is what happened. What's going on?" And he was like, and he was like, "Oh, this stuff is true. This stuff is in the Bible." I'm like, "What do you mean this stuff is in the Bible?" So I never read the Bible. So he was like, "Oh, yeah. Jesus interacted with demons. This spiritual warfare is real." And I'm like, "Are you kidding me right now?" And he was like, yeah. And then he's telling me about the Gospels and message, and God could be doing. He's telling me all these things for about half an hour or more. And finally, I was like, "Listen, man, I'm just convinced that there's something out to kill me. So I need some serious help." And he was like, "Well, there's only one person I know who has authority over demons and angels." And I was like, "Who?" He's like, "Jesus." And I was like, "Okay." So, all right. So then, yeah. And he's like, "Okay, you want to pray? You want to, And I'm like, "Yeah, let's do this." And but I actually take a minute, and I said, "Before I repeat after you, I want to just say something." And so I just want to do that because, in Islam, my relationship with God was really on a mat. I pray, and it was, you pray in one particular language, in a particular times, in a particular mat, particular direction. And it's just, in a particular language, all that. And I just wanted to just say what I wanted to say. And that is, I was like, "Jesus, I don't know who you are. So I can't make any promises. I can't say you're the Lord of my life or I love you and all that. But if you save me from this, I'll give you my life, Yeah, so I said that, prayed that. Then I prayed after my brother, amen, amen. And we joke about it. I joke about it. And I do a lot of kidding around about the story in the book. But eventually went back in the room. and uh, uh, and then I was reading John because my brother gave me a Bible. It was ridiculous because when he first handed me for my first Bible, it was smaller than my iPhone. You know what I'm saying? It was like the Gideon Bible,
The little green
yeah,
one?
yeah.
Yes.
It was literally that green one,
Yeah.
and I was like, "Dude, what is this?" And he was like, "It's the Bible." I'm like, "For hobbits? Like, who is this for?" Like he was like, "No, it's the New Testament and all that." So there I am, back in the room. All the lights are on. I'm reading, and I'm like just losing my mind. I'm like, "What did I just do? I just came here, went through a war. I cannot be having demon problems." I was like, "Whoever is up there, leave me alone. Like, I do not want this. I just don't want any of this." Like, I wasn't really a spiritual. I mean, I was thinking I was going to do art, so I was into the arts, and I was thinking I was going to be a painter and all that, but I wasn't really spiritual. I wasn't looking for forgiveness. I wasn't looking for God. I was like, I don't want any of this. And just got mad, man. I put the Bible down, went, shut off the lights, came back to my bed, put the covers on my head, and the next thing I know, that something was shaking me, and I'm like, oh no, here we go, here we go. And the next moment, I'm sitting on my bed, looking, and there he was. And I can't tell you exactly what I saw because I thought, I'm looking at you, but I'm inside of you. It was the craziest, surreal moment. And he said, I'm Jesus and your life is not your own. And I was like, I couldn't get it because I don't know if you've ever felt peace so aggressive. Like I knew that I couldn't keep my eyes off of him, but I couldn't keep my eyes open. Like this physical body could not be in that presence for long. Like I just knew. Like I walked through a portal. I entered into a dimension. I don't know what exactly happened, but I was just like, I cannot stay. I'm trying to keep it together, and I just fell back to sleep. And yeah, I woke up the next morning and felt like I had a download of like, hey, you're supposed to be in ministry, and then yeah, man, then just started pursuing stuff, and yeah, in the next couple of years, in the book I talk about all the stories of my siblings, me leading them to Christ supernaturally, moments like these, crazy, crazy supernatural
Wow.
stories. Yeah,
Wow. That is amazing. That
yeah,
is
man,
absolutely
it is.
amazing. And it's, besides it just being an incredible story, I love how God shows up and meets us right where we need to be met.
Right.
You probably weren't going to be argued into the kingdom, right? You weren't going to be
No.
factored into the kingdom. It had to be something. I mean, you grew up Muslim, and Muslim is it's a culture, it's a religion, it's an identity. I mean, it's all these things,
Yeah.
and it's a family. I mean, like you said, you wanted to kill your brother when he started following Jesus, like that.
Yeah. It's a
That's not an
nationality.
unusual
That's the,
story,
yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And so that's awesome. That is incredible. And out of that, you planted a church in Charlotte, North Carolina. So a Pakistani who grew up in Kuwait,
I
who
know.
immigrated to North Carolina, ends up planting a church. Can you give us like and it's a multi-ethnic church. So challenges, joys, like give us a little bit of that, maybe not necessarily the planting story, but maybe the story of just like how God has shown up and maybe some of the challenges you've had to overcome on that part of the journey.
Well, I'll start with the good. I mean, the great thing is that yeah, we have I think 27 different ethnic groups. It's definitely an international church. Um, very very different people. Very like you would get cross section of humanity, all of it in every shape or form, if you want to think about. Um, um, yeah, it's very extremely diverse. Um, it's a beautiful thing, but it's a very beautiful thing. It's really definitely a mosaic of people, and I don't even know how it's working. Like sometimes I look around and I just go, I don't know how it's working. I have told these people. I mean, even when we do huddles in the mornings for our volunteers, you know, you do a massive huddle and yeah, we're like, then they look around like, I don't know why this is working. Like, and um, but the challenge is that yeah, though it's beautiful, no one, majority of the people in this part of the world, in the South, do not want that. Like, they do not want that. They want to talk about it. They think it's a cool idea, um, but they don't want it. They don't want it because it comes with a lot of um, um, uncertainty. It comes with a lot of grace. It comes with a lot of like letting go of past traditions and thoughts of what Christianity looks like, what formation looks like, what grace looks like. It just comes with a lot, and not a lot of people are okay with that. Um, for the longest time, for me, the challenge was for the good 10 years, maybe even good 12 years. For 10 years, pretty strong. My biggest thing was convincing people I wasn't a terrorist, which you think it's ridiculous. But because, when I started, this is 2006, and we all know 9/11. And so, yeah, there are people who just were like, and I've had people come up. I think I've told stories about it in either in this book or the next previous book about people they're like, we think you're a terrorist. And so
But they're
like,
attending your
for,
church. But they're at your
well,
church.
some are, but they do
Okay.
it and then they take off.
Okay. Got it. Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, but I've had people, I've had a volunteer who served for us for a long time. He moved away, but yeah, he wouldn't go into the auditorium. I think I mentioned it in the book,
Mm-hmm.
because he had what do you call it? Post-traumatic.
PTSD. Yeah.
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 And so he was like, "Hey, I cannot be in the closed room with a guy who looks like you." And I was like, "Bro, I get it. I mean, I get it. I mean,
So
I don't know exactly what you're feeling, but I get it." So those are the challenges.
yeah. Yeah. So
Besides all the other challenges.
right. And having that grace and humility in those spaces, I think, is one of the challenging pieces. Like, for whatever reason, we don't want to go to church and have that grace with one another. I mean, or at least we only want it in certain areas that like we can like feel comfortable with. So this volunteer who wouldn't come into the auditorium and he stayed around, why did he stay? I'm just curious, like that to me, like I don't want to go to church and have PTSD. Like I want to go to church and
Yeah.
go, and worship and hear a message and all of that. Did you know why he stayed? Was it community? Was it relationships?
Yeah. It was community. It was people he loved. He loved the spirit of this place. He loved that he could be accepted. He obviously saw that there wasn't a standard that everybody had to meet, that he could come in broken, which is hard, sometimes with churches, because you have an atmosphere or culture. We have a culture of kindness, and people just feel it and instantly. It's because we don't tell people to be kind. We just say, if you're not kind, you're out. Like you're like, we accept everybody, but not jerks. Like, so if you're going to be an ass, if I can say that, you're out. Um, and you won't even like it. You won't even like it because we're just not. So he saw that. I think part of it too, man, is like, when it comes down to it, our soul wants healing. We are drawn to it. So it'll make it'll sometimes force us to go, okay, you're not going to get full healing, but you're going to be drawn to it. So he was just drawn to the space, but I don't, I can't, I don't know.
Yeah. That's in it. All right. I got two more questions for you. Here's
Okay.
next to the last one.
Yeah.
What's one thing you would tell people when life gets fearful or loud or overwhelming? Is there something that you would say when that fear starts kicking in, that you're like, hey, here's something to think about. Here's maybe it's something to do, but at least here's a perspective to have. What would you tell somebody when life gets that way?
I mean, so I would say, like, if the question is like, if a tragedy happens or if you enter into a season, two different things, right? If something ridiculous, just over the top happens, and that is, the God spirit in you, and, surrounding yourself with people and going through that traumatic experience, or, but it's temporary. A longer term thing. I think the longer term thing, when people go through something like this, or they enter into a season, or they just lost their relationship. They know that they're kind of spinning, and it's going to redefine them a little bit, or they just got laid off, or just lost a loved one. I think the best thing we can do, and I would say, is that is to begin to start creating beauty around them. Now, some people go, okay, well, that's just therapy. You draw, start painting stuff. Yeah, painting stuff and doing artwork and all that. I mean, yes, there are studies linked to that. But here's what I want people to know. What I want people to know is that God created you, and God who created you is a creator. And when you begin to create, you are most like him, and you'll most feel him. So like the creation story to me is very different from what other people might think. So if you start off with the creation story, it starts off, verse 3 starts listing, and God made this, and God made the birds of the air, and God made day and night and all that. And if you noticed, every day he would do a work, he would stop and he would say, that's good. That's good. You know who does that? Artists do that.
Do they?
Yeah. People who create stuff do that. They do something, they go, oh, that's good.
That's good.
That's good. That's good.
Yes.
And then when he finished everything, you know what he did? He was like, oh, this is awesome. Like, he actually literally says, this. So right now, so what God did was he stopped to consider the beauty of it. And he was like, I'm amazing. like he's like, this is awesome. And we don't think that way, because sometimes the scriptures are so data points, and you're like, look what's happening. The Jewish people are telling the story of creation, and they're like, this is what God is, an artist, and God's a creator. So yeah, the best thing you and I can do is begin creating something. And I'm not talking about painting. Begin creating, working on a project, a dream, working on something, creating something beautiful. And man, I think that's the most healing thing that people can do in a time like this, is start creating. That's why, going back all the way to Jeremiah, he goes, I know that you went through a traumatic thing. I want you to start building a house. I want you to start planting a garden. I mean, come on, plant a garden? Why does he say that? Create beauty, look at beauty. And that's why I say, you have to find beauty. Even Jesus, right? Matthew, the big sermon about worry. What does he say? He starts off and he says, hey, have you looked at the birds lately?
Right. Yes.
What?
How about the fields, right?
Birds, the field. What are you saying? He's like, look at the birds. Aren't they beautiful? I mean, they're taken care of, aren't they? You're more important than that. Hey, have you seen the flowers? So pretty. I mean, wow. How is this possible? Yeah, God who does that is going to provide for you. So he's literally telling them to look at the beauty around them. And I think that's what happens when we are in the midst of despair and hopelessness. The one thing you're in when you're in despair, here's how you know, or you're going downhill, is you cannot see beauty. You can see all other things. You can see practical things, but you cannot see anything beautiful. And therefore, you cannot have any joy. So,
yeah. I love that. That is so good. That's so good.
Thanks, man.
Last year, I planted some yellow lilies on the side of the house, and it died like instantly. Not quite instantly,
Wow.
but like,
yeah.
And I'm actually pretty good in the yard. I keep things alive, so it died.
Okay.
I'm like, oh man, I overwatered it. I don't know what I did. I went out yesterday. It's back. I'm
Nice.
like, and it was great because I texted the picture to my wife. My wife loves flowers. I texted to my wife and she's like, thank you so much for sending a picture of those flowers. That makes me happy. And she was there's a lot of stuff going on at work right now. But even just recognizing beauty. I mean, sometimes yes, it's creating, but also it's to sit. And I use this analogy a lot where I can sit and look at the weeds in front of me. or I can lift my eyes up and look at a beautiful sky, right?
Yeah,
And
for
when I'm
sure.
looking at the weeds in front of me, and the weeds aren't going anywhere, like pick the
Yeah,
weeds, but those are the things, those are the annoyances, those are the challenges, those are the tragedies, those are the difficult things. And then if I'm staring at that all day,
yeah,
I'm just staring at a field of weeds. But if I can
yeah,
lift my eyes up, and it doesn't take the weeds away, but I start to get perspective. I start to see
yeah,
God has something more. There's something bigger than me. And then you start appreciating. And now when you get back to the weeds, you turn to the weeds with a different attitude. You turn to the
for
weeds
sure.
with a little bit of like, okay, there's something more going on. Let me get back to the weeds. I still got to pick those things and clear
Yeah,
this
yeah, yeah,
out.
yeah, yeah.
But I know God's with me. I know He's present, and I know He's got something bigger for me. And I've loved that passage you picked that Jesus sends us out to nature because I think He
Okay.
wants us to use our imagination. He's actually saying, "Picture this. Oh yeah, you
Yeah,
can see the birds. Picture the birds flying.
yeah,
They're taken
yeah,
care of."
yeah,
So use your
yeah,
imagination. If God loves you more than them, anyway, I love that.
yeah,
I love that
yeah.
concept, and I think it's so important and practical and something that we can do. We can
Mm-hmm.
too, but you do have to choose it. You do have to choose, like, I'm going to find something to create. I'm going to find something to appreciate. I'm going to find,
Right,
that thing.
right. Yes,
But it starts
yes.
us. Sorry, I shouldn't be talking this much. This is your
No, no,
episode.
no, no, no,
But
no. This is so true. So good.
but it gets
So
us
good.
looking to the future too, right? I mean, it
Yeah.
gets us that hopefulness that gets us out and away from kind of the cloud of our past and our fears and our tragedies and all of those things. And again, not that they're gone, but it starts to reorient us looking forward.
100%.
So,
100%. Yeah.
yeah,
No, it's true, man. It's so true.
I love it. All
So
right, this
true.
is my last question for you.
Okay. Yeah. Shoot.
What's exciting you right now? Could be something in your family, something you're reading in the Bible, project you're working on, something you're doing this summer, but what's one thing that's just exciting you right now?
I mean, I would say, I mean, there are several things. I mean, right now, the season of our life with my kids, it's exciting to see my daughter going to college. Exciting. It's just like anticipating like what's going to happen. Asher, because my son, finding his own, you know, being growing up into a man, like a working man. That's kind of cool. And then, I mean, I'm excited about what the possibility of this book, and I've got kind of a book tour coming up and all that. But it's going to be a lot of work for sure. It's going to be a lot of work. But what's cool though is, man, I mean, even now I'm getting I got stories of people that are messaging me about how God is speaking to them through this, and yeah, so I'm pretty excited about what that will do in people's lives because I mean, yeah, more people, pushing back for fear, more people not allowing their insecurities, their disabilities to enslave them, more people out of prison in one sense, the more free people. I mean, that's pretty exciting. Yeah.
That is exciting. That is exciting. Well, Naeem, thank you for being on the podcast.
Of
I've
course, man.
enjoyed our conversation. Thanks for giving us some time today. And for everybody out there, let's go live faith first. Hey, you're still here. That means you enjoyed our conversation with Naeem. Wasn't that a fun conversation today? Okay, here's the one thing I want you to think about. What is the creative thing you can do to get yourself looking towards the future? Would you write that in the comments? Just tell us, like, what's that one thing? Maybe it's appreciating nature. Maybe it's painting. Maybe it's creating a new business plan. I don't know what it's going to be. But when we get into that future-oriented, hope-oriented mode, it helps us navigate better through our past. All right, everybody. Let's go and live faith first.